Week 15 Day 1. Danny Escobedo goes to jail. In 1960, a young Chicagoan, Danny Escobedo, was given a 20-year jail sentence for first-degree murder. Danny had confessed to complicity in the killing of his brother-in-law after the police had refused to allow him to see his lawyer. Actually, Danny was tricked into blaming a friend for the liquidation of his sister's husband, thereby establishing himself as an accomplice. Despite the fact that Danny later recanted his confession, he was found culpable and jailed. Danny had been stereotyped as a hoodlum and nobody raised an eyebrow over the hapless felon's troubles. Sample sentences. 1. Proceeding on the premise that the broker was guilty of complicity in the swindle, the detective followed him surreptitiously. 2. After the liquidation of the gang leader, a mammoth conflict arose among his ambitious lieutenants who aspired to be boss. 3. Once the incontrovertible evidence was offered, the servant was held culpable in the theft of the jewels. 4. When the clergyman refused to recant, his superiors were so nettled that they relegated him to an isolated parish in Alaska. 5. Although he was judged as a minor accomplice, the driver had actually played an integral part in planning the crime. Week 15 Day 2. Escobedo's lawyer appeals. Barry Crowell, a Chicago lawyer, took an interest in Danny Escobedo's case. Crowell felt that his client's rights under the Constitution had been abrogated. Since the alleged accomplice, Escobedo, had been denied access to an attorney, Crowell asked the courts to invalidate the conviction. He proposed that lawyers be entitled to sit in when the police question a suspect, but the Illinois courts rejected that, on the grounds that it would effectively preclude all questioning by legal authorities. If such a law were upheld, the police felt that it would play havoc with all criminal investigations. Sample sentences. 1. The manager was distraught when he realized that the slugger's sickness would preclude a World Series victory. 2. It is symptomatic of some newspapers that an alleged criminal is regarded in print as guilty. 3. The wealthy uncle decided to abrogate his inane nephew's sinecure. 4. The general was sure to invalidate the court-martial's decision once he learned of the flagrant bias of the presiding officer. 5. Once the druggist had been duped into opening the store, the addict gained access to the pep pills. Week 15 Day 3. An historic Supreme Court ruling. Lawyer Crowell persevered in his defense of Danny Escobedo. The case was argued before the Supreme Court, and in 1964, in a landmark decision, the court reversed Danny's conviction. Legal aid, said the judges, must be instantly available to a suspect. A system of law enforcement that comes to depend on the confession. One justice declared, will, in the long run, be less reliable than a system that depends on extrinsic evidence independently secured through skillful investigation. A justice who declaimed against the decision said, however, I think the rule is ill-conceived and that it seriously fetters perfectly legitimate methods of criminal enforcement. Sample sentences. 1. Collectors avidly sought the rare coin for its extrinsic value. 2. If we persevere, we can overcome many of our inhibitions. 3. The Battle of Midway was a landmark victory in the U.S. campaign for ultimate victory over the Japanese in World War II. 4. I knew that my father would declaim against mother's choice of ostentatious fabrics. 5. The senator inveighed against the policy because he felt it would fetter our Air Force. Week 15 Day 4. The effects of the Escobedo decision. After Danny Escobedo's release from prison, hundreds of inmates began suits for their freedom, on the grounds that their rights had been violated, too. Each case was heard on its merits, and in numerous instances people who had been convicted of serious offenses were freed, because of the new standards established in the Escobedo case. After getting out, Danny was not a paragon of virtue, according to the police. He led a nomadic existence, drifting from job to job, and was arrested frequently. With asperity, and a few choice epithets, Danny referred to police harassment. Although the Escobedo case was a controversial one, most agree that it inspired better police training, better law enforcement procedures, and improved scientific crime detection. Sample sentences. 1. In the desert, nomadic tribes wander back and forth, enduring much privation. 2. The town planners looked upon their utopia as a paragon for other communities. 3. Some school principals attempt to repress the publication of controversial editorials. 4. We were amazed at the display of asperity from our normally phlegmatic neighbor. 5. A bitter quarrel was precipitated when both politicians hurled vile epithets at each other.